Welcome to the Overgivers Anonymous podcast. My name is Angela Mondor, also known as the Geeky Girl. In this podcast, we're going to be talking about some amazing things to help you get over overgiving. Hi, and welcome to this episode of the Overgivers Anonymous podcast. My name is Angela Mondor, and I'm also known as the Geeky Girl. Today, I want to dive into something that I've talked about before, a little bit of a different perspective, perhaps, because we're going to give you a quiz to help you with this. I thought it would be good to dive into it in a different manner. Maybe this is, there's something to be said for trying to do things in different ways because we all learn differently. And so here's a little piece for you. We're going to be talking about a SWOT analysis. Relax, stick with me, please. Don't pause this video. Stick with me. Don't zoom away. I'm not talking about the corporate way, okay? I want to look at things a lot differently than what maybe you have seen before in the past, or maybe things that you have been told before in the past about a SWOT analysis. Now, number one, if you don't know what the SWOT analysis is, no problem. It's literally a 4 grid, okay? There's literally 4 quadrants. And that's what it stands for, SWOT, SWOT. So it's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. When a corporation takes this on, they look at it way differently than I encourage you to do so. I want to teach you a different way to look at this so that it's less corporate-y and also more designed for your brain. As a neurodivergent human being, we see things a lot differently than our neurotypical business owners as well. But corporate also stays very neurotypical in the design in which they're on the tracks and they go, whereas we're just kind of like meander around the tracks. So let's dive in, have some fun. This is going to be fun because it's different than what you've ever seen before, I hope. All right. So it's important for us to do this because it helps us to identify the different pieces of the business that are going to allow us to grow the business in the direction that we want to go. We want to be successful, and each of us have our own version of what that success looks like. And so this is going to help you to be able to figure out where your strengths lie and what are the things that are going to be available to you in order to make the things happen for you to be successful. So let's talk strengths first. You have a lot of strengths. In fact, as a neurodivergent human being, one of the main things that I see as a problem is that we have a hard time identifying what our strengths are. Things that come easy to us, we just think, oh, everybody else can do those things too, but really they can't. So one of the things that helped me when I was trying to figure out what are my strengths was that I would listen to what people would say about me to me. So they'd say, oh, you're a great mom, or you're this, or you're really good at planning things, or oh my goodness, you have a really neat way of seeing action plans for planning, those kinds of things. And I would write them on sticky notes and stick them to my wall. Now, sticky notes don't stick really well to a painted surface, so I actually took a piece of paper and I put sticky tack there first, and then I stuck them to the piece of paper, nonetheless. But what I did was, every time somebody said something nice about me, I would write it down and I would stick it to the wall. And so then I was able to review it, and then I was able to look at my strengths. Just a little tip for you to find out how you can get your strengths. Other things that I have done is I've spoken to mentors or other business owners that I am in collaboration with, or even your clients. You might ask them, what do you think is, what are some of the things you like most about what we do together? And you can really get some great information from them as to why they do business with you. Those are your strengths. So I encourage you to stay as much as possible in that circle of brilliance. That is, your strengths are your circle of brilliance. So spend as much time there as possible. Okay. Now, your weaknesses. Now, here's where we're going to differentiate. In the corporate world, they look at weaknesses and say, how can we fix our weaknesses? We're not going to fix our weaknesses. That is not what we're doing a SWOT analysis for. And that's the huge difference between the way other people do SWOT analysis and the way I'm going to encourage you to look at this. So when we look at weaknesses, we want to say, what are the things we're not good at? So for me, when I go into that weakness category, mine is accounting. It's a huge weakness for me. Writing on a regular basis is really hard for me. I have only so much brain power for writing, which is funny because I'm writing a fiction book. That's another story entirely. But I know when I am best at writing, and it's only a certain segment of time. So writing a book is different than having to write emails all day. Okay. So writing emails all day requires me to figure out how I'm going to say things, when I'm going to say them, and writing them and being off the cuff. And that's not a good thing for me. That's a weakness in my world. So when you look at what those are, now when I look at my business and say, okay, I'm not really great at accounting, fantastic. Guess what I'm going to do? I can hire an accountant or a bookkeeper, somebody to do those things for me. The writing piece, there's a few things I can do. Now we have AI, so I can actually use Goblin Tools is a really great one, or of course ChatGPT, as everybody's talking about that one. Or I can actually hire somebody to do emails. Now, in our business, we do have somebody who does that. Her name is Julia. She's amazing. And so between the two of us, we get it done. So sometimes I'm writing them, sometimes she's writing them, but we're getting the work done together. And don't you forget that we are using those other tools as well to help us to boost up what we need to say, when we need to say it, and how we need to say it. So we're not trying to change. I'm not trying to learn to be a better copywriter. I'm not trying to learn to be an accountant. I'm not trying to boost my weaknesses. No, I'm trying to mitigate those weaknesses. How can I deal with those things? So one of the ways is that you try to find tools that can help you with those things, like I said with Goblin Tools or ChatGPT, those kinds of things, or you outsource them and have somebody else do those jobs inside your business. So, when you're identifying those weaknesses, it's important to think about these things in terms of what are you not great at? Not necessarily what are you bad at, what are you not great at? Or what are some things you hate doing? Now, in my career in this business, I started out being a technician for computers and I used to run cables and networks and fix your computer. I was your IT geek. Then from there, I moved on and I was a social media manager, and from there, I moved on to this position now where I'm helping people build their businesses and find the success without being overwhelmed as a neurodivergent entrepreneur in the strategic planning piece that we're doing inside the businesses. So I don't like fixing computers anymore. I've spent years and years and years fixing computers. So now when I buy a computer for the business, guess what? I'm buying through the river insurance. So that if something happens to it, somebody else is going to fix that. Just because we can doesn't mean to say we should. That's something that I think is really important to put on the weaknesses side. Just because you can doesn't mean to say you should. So you can do this, but maybe you don't like it. Or you can do that, but maybe you're not good at it. Or maybe you can do this, but it takes you 3 hours. And you know you can hire somebody to do it in 30 minutes, right? No brainer moments. So think about that weaknesses piece in that way. Now, when you think about your opportunities, this is where we get really sidelined as an entrepreneur sometimes because we're always finding opportunities, whether it's an ad that comes across your news feed or it's an email with something really cool that's come across. These opportunities that pop up are, well, let's just call them what they are. They can be distracting, but they can also be valuable. So there's a difference between an opportunity that is valuable and an opportunity that is a distraction. So when you look at that opportunity, you need to have a solid plan in place inside your business. What you're going to do this year, how you're going to get there, what are the pieces of that puzzle? When an opportunity shows up, whether it's on your newsfeed, whether it's some brand new app sumo, whatever, email that pops up, you can look at that opportunity and say, does this fit the plan? Is this thing going to help me get to that next thing that I'm looking for? It's a yes or no question. Or it's a, yeah, but maybe not this quarter, or maybe not this year. Maybe I need to put that off till next year or next quarter. Just because it's an opportunity doesn't mean to say that A, it requires action right now, or B, that you have to take action soon, right? You can take that and say, you know what, that's a great opportunity. I want to do that, but not this year. I have enough on my plate. I'm going to put it into next year. So having something in place, a strategic plan in place, so that you can write these things down and not lose them and pick them up in the time frame that you're looking for, whether it's next quarter, next month, next year, whatever the case may be. So opportunities are fantastic, but look at the opportunities that are coming through your newsfeed, fine. But what are the opportunities you have inside your business as well? You might be sitting in a moment inside your business going, I would like to expand, or I would like to change the way I'm doing things. That's where that opportunity fits. So what kinds of opportunities do you have? And again, same thing, you want to actually look at those based on what your goals are as well. Is that going to get me to where I need to go? That's your opportunity square. Now, over on the right and the bottom, we have the threats. Now, threats can be things that we know about. We may have some known threats. For example, there's some talk that this year, during months of October and November, kind of idea might be a little bit crazy in the United States with with the election that's happening. It is somewhat of a threat to some businesses, depending on what you're involved in inside your business and how you think that's going to impact your business. Other threats inside the business could be things that you are aware of, such as you know that you need to take X amount of holiday time. Technically, that's a threat to the business because you're not going to be working during those times. So how do you fix, or how do you mitigate? How do you change things so that that doesn't become a threat inside the business? And then we have the threats that we don't know that are coming. 2020 was it was a huge threat nobody knew was coming. We planned our years, we planned our quarter, and then right towards the end of that first quarter, that everybody's world blew up. We didn't expect that to happen. So we had to change and adjust and move things around. The same could be said for you getting sick, a spouse getting sick, your kids, maybe have aged parents. You could have a natural disaster happen. There's all kinds of things that we can't see. But when you are putting together this overall plan for your business and you're going through and you're readjusting every time you go through it, I suggest you create a yearly plan, break that yearly plan out into quarters, and then every single month you take a piece of that quarter and put it into the month. Now, if you're checking in that often and every single month you're going, okay, what did I accomplish this quarter that I said I was going to do? What do I need to do next? And then roll it up into the whole year. Make sure you stay on track. You're going to hit your goals like nobody's business. And when a threat happens that you weren't anticipating, you can say, okay, I wasn't anticipating, I don't know, a natural storm that took out my internet for the next week, right? How am I going to mitigate that? Okay, well, I can't work at home. I need to go and rent an office. Or I can't work at home. I need to go and work at Starbucks for the next week. Whatever it is, you're able to mitigate it and say, okay, well, because I have these plans in place, maybe you can't work at Starbucks because in that time frame during that you had planned to create your content for social media. So now you need to find a new place where you can create that content, but you know what you need. And you know that threat, even though it could force you into a strange situation, you've planned it out and you know how you can adjust to take away those threats, even when they're a surprise threat. So we're going to put this together in a fun quiz for you so you can kind of look at your strengths and weaknesses, the opportunities, your threats, and see how you feel about your business and those pieces that are going on. Remember, if you have a plan and you're checking in on it regularly, then this can really help you to create the action steps inside your business, and it'll help you mitigate anything that maybe isn't working in your favor. If you don't have a plan, and if you've been struggling because you hate planning, I encourage you to check out the Rockstar Success Circle. We have a ton of fun. In fact, our planning sessions are not sessions, they are parties. We have a blast, and everybody supports each other in creating these goals, but also not just the goals, the action plans to get shit done. I encourage you to give us a shout if you're interested. If you're listening on the podcast, of course, you can send us an email at clientcare@geekygirl.ca. And if you're here on YouTube with us, you can just leave us a comment below. We'll get back to you with more information. And there's probably something in the show notes for you as well. I hope that you can look at this SWOT analysis a little differently, maybe not take it in the same sort of light that maybe you knew before, and look at it a little differently so that you can see yourself and your business in a little bit of a different light. Instead of trying to fix the weaknesses, we're going to mitigate those weaknesses. We're going to rely on our strengths. We're going to filter those damn opportunities, and we are going to prepare for the threats. Hope you have a fantastic week. We'll talk to you next week. Thank you so much for listening to the Overgivers Anonymous podcast. Your support means the world to me. You can find show notes for this episode and other goodies at overgiversanonymous.ca. And if you enjoyed this episode or you enjoyed the podcast in general, why not join us in the Overgivers Anonymous Facebook group, where you can connect with overgivers from all over the world. Head on over to geekygirl.ca/group.